Hello and welcome back to my channel, and we continue with the solo classic traveler campaign. We have now completed the world design. We have generated our characters, and what I had lined up for the next session was to be an expansion of, I suppose, the background, the setting, into the immediate starport on Taro. I have a kind of checklist that I'd use to pull together some of the information that I thought I would need for that exercise. And I also I would quite like to introduce this concept of my Dragon Hotel, which is and maybe give a bit of background about the Dragon Corporation itself, how it was created, what its ethos is, to give a kind of bit of flavour to just what the characters, what environment, immediate environment the characters are going to be in. And I've been quite looking forward to this because I've been busy beavering away, coming up with these little ideas and stuff and kind of drafting it down on paper. So it might be kind of text heavy this session, but hopefully you'll find it quite interesting, and it's also act as kind of set up to almost like draw a line in the sand on the campaign development now. And maybe what we could do just at the start is just to recap on the progress that we've made. And this is the sort of exercise I do for my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons campaign, is that I have this master checklist of just where we should be getting to, and obviously some of the latter stages are not they're not in a sequential order. They're kind of going on at the same time. But certainly for maybe the first three, we had create the characters with a party randomly generated. Well, I could say that we've done that. Generate the starting world where the characters meet and begin their adventures. Going through the planetary stats, determine its ecology and culture. Keep a note of any interesting or potential adventure points. Now, I would say for all intents and purposes, we have completed that. I've gone through, I've generated the UWP. I've determined from that, I've extrapolated a lot of things about its ecology, about its economy, its culture, its politics, its environment. And then from that, we've extrapolated a series of adventure points that we could use maybe as threads or leads in future scenarios or future adventures for our characters. So, and kind of job done there, I would say. The next stage is to place the characters in the starport and begin with them searching for a patron and employment. So I would say we're almost at that stage where I want to, and what I would like to do is beef up that stage a bit, the starport stage, and have that as a kind of presentation of what maybe we should be thinking about when we have a starport, and treat the starport as the kind of the starting area for our characters. And I'm very much going to go down the model I had for my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons solo campaign. And why not use a model and roll it out maybe in a different environment? It seems to have worked okay in that setup, where I had a starting settlement. I had within that I had a hub for the characters to stay, called my Green Dragon Inn. This is going to be very similar. It's going to be the starting settlement is effectively our starport, our Imperial starport, which for travelers is kind of like a safe area, a safe haven, but it could have its own internal intrigues and whatever, because this is Traveller and that's what that's all about. And then we have within that we have a safe place for the travellers to stay, and that's bound by a protocol and rules of engagement, which I'm quite happy to illustrate and show to you, and that will govern the characters within this environment. And if they step outside that, well, they have to face the consequences, that they're outside the Imperial jurisdiction, they're outside the rules of the Dragon Hotel. They have to face local authorities and local conditions. So, first on the agenda, I would say, is starport design. And and I kind of racked my brain. I've been scouring through the internet to see what sort of ideas there are on Starport, and I came up with a very high level checklist, which I thought might be appropriate when you are considering your Starport and what. And we can maybe just rattle through this. I can maybe just put some little marks beside it and just to say what sort of decisions are appropriate to our local Starport. So the point of this is to have a kind of aid memoir, a quick checklist where we can really just rattle through all the different points and see what's applicable, what's not applicable, and how it applies to our starting planet, and what we would expect the starport on the starting planet to be like. So the first thing is just the basic starport profile I talk about, and it comes down to the fundamentals of location. So has it got a planet-based facility? Yes, in this case it's going to have, but does it have an orbital facility present? I would say on a Class C it's probably unlikely to have an orbital. I know in the Mongoose version there are rules that you can do to say whether there is what's called a high port, which is an orbiting facility, and sometimes that's joined to the planet by what would be called the space elevator, or there's usually shuttlecraft that goes up and down. So this is for craft that are not streamlined and they can't land on the planetary surface. I'm really assuming that everything has to be streamlined, and if you want to get refueled in this place, which is unrefined fuel by the way, you have to land on landing pads. So I'm not going to say we've got an orbital facility present in a long-winded way. And the government of the starport is probably going to be an Imperium Starport Authority. It could be independent autonomous agency. We'd have to determine that. We found out that our Imperium Index is affiliated. I think it's aligned. But we will still have an Imperium Starport, and an Imperium does this. It puts effectively a trade center on every planet that is either aligned, allied, obviously member worlds and direct subjugated worlds will automatically have this. But on things that it's in Taro's case, who are aligned, they would still have a kind of a trading facility, and that's agreed with the local people, the local Taro government, as a joint venture. The Imperium has jurisdiction over that to an extent. Taros can still have maybe there's things like extradition and whatever. If the criminals go into the starport, there's probably some form of extradition treaty with the Taro government. It's that kind of situation. Basically, within the starport, effectively Imperium, out with the starport Taro. So we're going to have an Imperium Starport Authority we have to deal with, and maybe some interesting NPCs and that. We've already had our secret agent, Lyra. Lyra, I forgot what her second name is. Did I jot it down? I hate forgetting the names of the people I should be dealing with. Lyra Val, Imperial Secret Service, and she's posing as an administrator in probably the Imperium Starport Authority, because that's what's running the show. So we could have a liaison with Lyra at some stage. Moving on, we've got traffic, low, moderate, and high. I would probably say it's probably quite low to moderate amount of traffic that's appearing. I wouldn't say it was the busy commercial hub. If it would be in a Class A, it's right on the start on a star line, fair enough. But no, tech level, the Imperium standard, which is 11 to 12. Or influenced by available tech and services. I would say that there's quite a lot of local influence on the technology. I'm going to illustrate that when we go through my example that I've extrapolated from this. I've done a kind of I've jotted down exactly what the starport looks like and how some of the fact that we're on tech level 6 planet, how that impacts on the starport's tech level. The approach and exterior, this is what it looks like when we come to it. Its appearance, its shape, size, the materials used in construction, the colors, the markings, any defenses that it has, the number and type of landing pads, the berthing, and a navigation, just down to simple things like navigation lights. So that's really just to give a kind of atmosphere about what it looks like. And I think it's an important thing that I want to try to do in my Traveller game, is to try to build up a kind of atmosphere of what things look like, describe it in quite a bit of detail, get use the sensory, get a bit of immersion in this universe, and to really kind of get, as I say, kind of get in underneath into with the senses of what it's all about. And I think that's quite an exciting way to the game, especially from a solo point of view, where you really are kind of having to pull every trick out of the book to try to kind of get your interest up and your immersion and your just the sense that you are a part of this game. And that's certainly the thing I'm taking on in my Advanced Dungeons and Dragons game now, is that I'm going to launch a new initiative to try to emphasize that immersion, because one of the downfalls of the random dungeon system is that it doesn't really generate, it tends to generate a lot of kind of maybe nonsensical things, and you have to interpret it, which is fair enough. But there's also patches of where you have no activity, you do a lot of exploring, and there's not much payoff because there's like the room's empty or whatever. So if I major on things like the atmosphere of it, like what do you see, what do you smell, what do you touch, what you hear, and try to ramp up the atmosphere, and also kind of try to populate it with other things like furniture and relics and detritus of just the dungeon, and maybe they've got a bit of backstory and clues, and that could lead to something. So even if we're exploring empty areas, we could still have something exciting going on, just for the fact that I've rolled randomly and I've come up with like a broken arrow. Why is the arrow broken? And why is it lying there? Maybe that leads on to something, even though the room's basically empty. So I've completely diverged, but that is basically to say I want to try to get a bit of atmosphere, and also going on to the literal atmosphere, the surface atmosphere, if applicable. We're looking at air quality, temperature, smells, and sounds. So they're not probably going to get much of a look in on this atmosphere, because they're usually using the filter mask with the oxygen supplies. They're not really going to get a chance to smell it unless they take the mask off, and then you're going to start getting burning on your lungs and that sort of thing. And it probably doesn't smell very nice anyhow. It's probably got a bit slight sulfur odor. Customs and immigration, we're looking at the layout, the flow of traffic, automated or manned checks, security, whether there's a visible presence and scanners, the officials, just their general demeanor. Are they kind of grumpy and sort of officious, or are they pleasant and helpful? Information displays, just are they kind of analog, or are they kind of digital, or just whatever. They could be like holographic images, that kind of thing, or are they just plain old displays, maybe even just signs. Passenger terminal, common area, the atmosphere, the size, sounds, and smells. Again, I'm trying to get the sensory feel about it. The amenities, like the waiting areas, food, drink, shops, the information booths, and quite importantly, transportation to other parts of the starport, and outside into the planet as well. What sort of transport is on offer. And then the starport services themselves, you've got, this is probably maybe not as part of the traveller's remit just now, because none of them have a ship. So we really get involved in this, but this would be pertinent if, say, we had a free trader, and we were, ultimately we're going to probably aspire to getting a ship and start doing all that kind of good stuff with trading and exploring out into the universe. But at this point, it may be just to note that, I'm thinking of berthing and fueling, the process and the fuel type, the maintenance and repair ability, the level of service we're going to get, cargo handling, whether there's the loading and unloading process and storage, ships logistics and supplies available, and brokerage, which is going to help with trade facilitation. So not long to go until we actually go on to the example. But security and law enforcement, now this is always of interest to travellers. Visible presence. Do we have uniformed personnel? We probably would have in an Imperium situation. You're maybe not going to get lots of Space Marines running around fully armed, but there might still be a presence. That's the Imperium likes to have a detachment usually of Marines in the area, and that's allowed by the locals. But the majority of staff are going to be in just the usual Imperium standard, and the Imperium in my Imperium, they're very keen on just having a utilitarian, basic kind of uniform. No frills. It's probably like a clean cut, slightly retro, maybe modeled, maybe on I don't know, sort of like, if you've almost like go back to the start of the 20th century, and it's that kind of quite retro look. Maybe not in jodhpurs and high jack boots and that sort of thing, but it's got that kind of maybe just almost like a late Victorian, early 20th century look to it. Um, but obviously with a bit more ramped up technology. Almost like June. If you remember the David Lynch June film, let's think of it about June Light. It's not quite as over the top with the uniforms, but that maybe that kind of look. And then surveillance, things to do with cameras, local laws, the relevant regulations, the detentions. Hopefully we're not going to have to deal with that, and with holding cells. And then unique details and atmosphere. This is where the tarot dimension comes in. Are we talking about the local culture? The influence on design and the operation of the establishment, the environment, whether there's any unusual conditions that we have to, obviously with this with the very thin and tainted atmosphere, that's fundamental to how any facility will operate. So that's going to have a direct impact. Rumors and secrets, whether there's any local talk and conversations that we can bring in. And probably one of the most interesting things that we can do on our starport, and as part of this exercise, is to think about some interesting NPCs and memorable characters that we can bring in. So that could be an episode all by itself. So that is my checklist. I've got through it. That would be applicable to any starport that we were coming across. I would apply that checklist to, say we went to another planet in our little local cluster, and we have done it on our map here. Say we wanted to visit the holidaying paradise of Vespasian, and come down on their class, whatever it is, probably not a very high class starport. Vespasian would have a whole different look and feel. It would still have the fundamentals of any starport, but I would still use that checklist and go through and just see whether I can tease out. And it's probably the best way to understand what I'm actually rabbiting on about is if I actually show you the example that I've come up for tarot. And I have got it on to 2 pages where I've jotted down, gone through my checklist, and basically given us a kind of like an overall feel for it. And then I do a bit of a thing where I talk about the atmosphere that we're trying to have in the thing, and then go through each of the categories that I've been talking about on the checklist. So, Tarot Spaceport. So the starport reflects Tarot's unique blend of a retro aesthetic and functional technology. So this is the big emphasis in Tarot Society, that they are kind of going backwards. They don't want to advance anymore. They don't want the tech level 11, 12 of the Imperium. They're quite happy with their tech level 6, and even that in a limited way. They don't want to, they like the retro look, basically. Buildings, they'll be constructed from durable, locally sourced material, incorporating the purplish rock that characterizes the planet's landscape. So we're going to have quite a lot of this purple look that's going to be subtly there in our buildings. The structures are designed to withstand the occasional severe weather with reinforced walls and secure seals. So that's the occasional cyclone conditions that we get because of the cold conditions. The overall look is functional and somewhat utilitarian, prioritizing practicality over decoration. So there's quite a kind of grounded look to it. It's not ostentatious. There's a deliberate analog feel to many of the controls and displays, even if they are internally sophisticated. So this kind of faux. It's almost like a kind of not steampunk because that's going back to the Victorian look, but imagine a kind of like a faux, basically a retro look on technology. It's trying to make maybe say 80s, 90s technology look as though it's the 1950s. It's that kind of thing. If we were like 2025, it would be trying to force that back to the look of yeah, probably the 1950s and the 1960s in our case. The key features and facilities, we've got our landing area, so we're going to have several landing pads on elevated platforms. We're going to have a central control tower with a retro design featuring large, easy to read displays and manual controls alongside more advanced systems. So again, pushing this narrative. The landing lights will be a slightly yellow tint, compensating for the planet sky. Now remember, I was saying that the planetary, the sky had a bit of a yellow tint to it, which was a bit disconcerting for first time arrivals, and people that are not really used to that type of thing, and maybe adding to the kind of mystery, this kind of fantasy look I've got for the overall place. The landing lights, in sympathy, have decided to have a slight tint as well. The terminal is a large enclosed structure to protect passengers and crew from the atmosphere. It has atmospheric seals and locks at all entrances and exits with robust air filtration systems. That's paramount. They've got to kind of protect the customers, the passengers, from any intrusion of this rather nasty atmosphere. Um, a spacious but sparsely decorated interior, emphasizing individual space and privacy. Now, remember, in Tarosian society, there's a big emphasis on independence, and they're quite private people. So that's kind of emphasizing that kind of element in their society. The signage in a clear, functional font, possibly with a slight archaic or classic design. So it's all very kind of old school, kind of faux Edwardian Victorian kind of look, early 20th century feel to it. The accommodation, now the central accommodation, I will come to this in far more detail, but let's just give a kind of high level narrative on it just now. The Dragon Hotel, which is a multi-story building integrated into the terminal. It offers comfortable rooms, emphasizing privacy. The hotel's design mirrors the Starport's aesthetic with durable materials and a retro-futuristic feel. Now, this is just a tiny snippet of what I'm going to talk about with the Dragon Hotel. And, the way things are going, I could probably even have a whole episode on it. But let's see if I can get it into this one just now. But just to say, I'm going to come back to that in a bit more detail later on. Okay. So the next thing to talk about is the cargo handling, and again, it's efficient but not overly automated cargo handling equipment such as cranes and platforms. There are secure storage areas for various types of cargo, including specialized storage for the planet's crystal export. Now, some of this crystal is very, very lucrative and valuable. There's specialized container pods around about the starport that can be used for that. There's quite a lot of commercial traffic as well because the industrial nature of the extraction industry. So that's all going on. Fueling and maintenance. There's fueling stations with a focus on safety and efficiency, and this is designed to handle unrefined Starship fuel. So that's the only type of fuel you'll get in a Class C starport is unrefined. Which is a bit of a downer because if there is always the risk that your jump drive stalls because of using that. But if you're well maintained, you shouldn't really have an issue, and it's a lot cheaper than refined fuel. There's a basic repair facility with tools and equipment for common Starship repairs, so that's all fine and dandy. Customs and immigration, we're saying that there's going to be a small functional customs and immigration area with minimal staff, and they're going to have in application, they're going to have procedures that respect individual rights and privacy, but still ensure basic security. So they're cognizant of what the Tarot society is like, and its emphasis on individual rights, and also on the privacy dimension too. So the Imperium, the good old Imperium, they are like the Romans. They allowed quite a lot of local autonomy to an extent. So there was almost like an imperial standard, but they would allow they were sympathetic to local customs, um, and they didn't see any point in trying to ruffle the natives sometimes, and so this is the Imperium doing their soft power stuff and respecting the local rights. Even though deep down, they're quite an authoritarian and stratified society, it's all based on class and privilege. They do have they do realize there are democratic institutions across the universe that they have to for some reason they want to all be kind of you have all these rights, all their citizens. It's ridiculous, but they have to respect that. So this is Imperium in action, doing its soft power. The environmental considerations. The Starport incorporates extensive environmental controls, including air filtration, temperature regulation, and waste processing systems. So that really is the nitty gritty of it there. Structures are the buildings, they're designed to withstand the occasional cyclones and blizzards, which already mentioned that. In summary, and hopefully this has given you a good feel of just what this place kind of looks like. And I think that's again, it's mirroring from my AD&D sessions, where I like to I went through quite a bit of detail about the Green Dragon Inn and what it looked like, and also what Marchton, our starting settlement, looked like. I also, from this, I'll extrapolate a kind of modular map of what the Starport is like, and maybe have it into zones. I think that's quite a nice feature, just so that you can visualize in your head what things are like, and where the Dragon Hotel sits, and where maybe the Starport Authority headquarters are, and the actual terminal itself, and this tower that I've been going on about, and all the landing pads, where do they live. So the overall atmosphere, the Starport feels functional, efficient, if not somewhat subdued. The emphasis on individual privacy and the conservative nature of Tarushian society creates a reserved atmosphere. While off-worlders are tolerated, there isn't an overwhelming sense of welcome, so it's a pretty low-key place, really. The unique aesthetic, combining retro design elements with advanced technology, gives the Starports a distinctive and memorable character. And that's what the brochure says. When you leave, you'll always remember Taro Spaceport, because it's got this retro feel to it. So that was the Starport, and as I say, I'll take that forward and put it into some pictures, some diagrams, try to maybe think about some of the NPCs that work there, and just some of the functional things that the travelers are going to have to interact with on a daily basis now that they are in the Starport. Okay, so that is the Starport done. The next thing I wanted to do was cover the Dragon Hotel. First of all, I'd quite like to just my idea on what I was going on about the John Wick thing, and maybe that's a bit an ultra version. As I said, I wanted it to be kind of John Wick light. In fact, very light. So it's not going to have all that kind of shenanigans going on. Well, hopefully not. It's going to be a bit more low key and subtle. Because I don't think the Imperium would allow a continental style system operating anywhere near its jurisdiction. But it does quite like this setup, because this is the perfect compromise for the Imperium. It allows them to subtly, it's almost like state sanctioned little enclaves of that could generate some positives for the Imperium, maybe some negatives, but on the balance of things, on the ledger of the Imperium, they think they're going to get a net positive, a net return on this. So they are backers of this. It's a Imperium mega corporation, but the Dragon Corporation, that's what it's called, does maintain absolute independence. It does maybe have some imperial influence on the boards, but it's always prided itself as one of the essential tenets of having complete independence and customer confidentiality and discretion. So it will not impart any information that it has within its premises to the Imperium, unless the Imperium does go through the usual channels of getting a warrant or whatever. Okay, so that being said, let's find out what the Dragon Corporation's history is. So this company the mega corporation that is behind these Dragon hotels, and the Dragon hotels are on every planet in the Imperium, and they are always placed in the starports. If there are multiple urban centers, you could have Dragon hotels, smaller Dragon hotels, also in those regions too. So I'm talking about high population planets. In the terms of Taro, we've only got a population of 1 million, so there's only going to be one Dragon hotel, and that's going to be in the starport. On the corporation's history, the foundation, the Dragons Corporation's origins trace back to the early days of the Imperium. The founder it was founded by this chap called Draco Verde. He was a visionary, or some might say an opportunistic entrepreneur. His early focus was initially the corporation focused on providing secure transportation and logistics for interstellar travelers. So that was the initial kind of mission statement when they started up. But it also expanded over time. Over the centuries, the corporation expanded into various sectors, including hospitality, the Dragon Hotel chain, finance, and security services. So it officially became this Dragon Hotel chain. Basically, it was about secure transportation and logistics, and it kind of thought, right, we can do it for people as well, and this should be our almost like our primary business, and that's going to be our strength as an organization. The current status is now a mega corporation with a significant presence and influence throughout the Imperium. It's enormous. Like any of the other mega corporations. You think about our Apples and Googles and Nvidia and all these sort of big companies. These probably pale into insignificance when it comes to these mega corporations. They're enormous entities. They're almost like states within states. So, moving on to the Dragon Hotel ethos, and this is the central conceit I have in this, almost in this game for characters. This will be their the way that it will govern their activity in the short term. Maybe not in the medium to longer term, because they might move out with the Dragon Hotel environment. But as a starter, we've got this safe haven for them to operate it. But to explain what the ethos is, the core principles. So the Dragon Hotel chain was established to provide a safe haven for interstellar travelers. Neutrality. A key aspect is its strict neutrality. The hotel operates as a safe zone where guests can conduct business and rest without fear of violence or political interference. So this is the Imperium side. You can't get involved, or the local agencies. Or the local governments, they can't get involved. And there's no fear of violence. There's no violence allowed on the premises. Discretion and security. The hotel prioritizes the privacy and confidentiality of their guests. Staff are trained to be discreet and to handle sensitive information with the utmost care. Terrific. That's exactly what you want from the hotel. They value customer privacy to 10 out of 10. They get a rating for that. Consistency and quality. Now this is interesting because I thought, well, what can I make different, maybe slightly different with this line of it? This service could probably be offered by any type of hotel or a hotel chain. But what would maybe make this a wee bit different and maybe slightly creepy as well? The corporation strives to maintain a consistent standard of service and quality across all its locations, often attributed to the rumored use of cloned staff. Whoa, yeah. They have a tagline. Now, I've stolen this, and I'm wondering if anybody in the comments is going to be able to work out where this comes from. And I don't know whether to tell you it or just to wait and see. I know I've got a North American audience, and I don't think you are going to be aware of it unless you're into bands like Sonic Youth or garage bands that have been influenced by a certain post-punk band in the United Kingdom. I don't think you're going to get this. I think maybe some of my UK viewers might be aware of it. They are a bit of an underground entity, but they have a cult following. Um, they have the tagline "Always different, always the same," so that encapsulates their vision. I will tell you what. I'll tell you what it is next one, and see if anybody can guess it. They get a prize. They'll get a, a Brian's Channel mug as a reward with the dragon on it. Yes, I had to get a traveller one as well. A little traveller one. Um, so, yeah, I got a bit carried away there. Right, rules of engagement. Guests must adhere to a strict set of rules. Violations can result in severe consequences, including blacklisting from all Dragon Hotel locations, which is awful. You don't have anywhere safe to stay, and this is worse, and potential contracts, which is a retribution. So if you've done something terrible, like say you've murdered another guest on the premises, and you escape, there'll be a contract out on you by the Dragon Hotel, financed by the Dragon Hotel, and staffed by their effectively their assassin division, which will go out and find you anywhere. There is no escape. So that could be quite an interest. Imagine the characters do that, and they're trying to escape. Imagine the scenario that we could have with that, with having the dragon assassins coming after them. And they feel safe in a location, and they're looking around and they're thinking, is one of them an assassin or isn't it? And they could be on a spaceship and on one of these liner things, and we could do that classic thing that I was talking about in the first episode, where we would have we'd have a murder on the thing, or we'd have the assassin there as part of the clientele, and we'd have to try and work him out, that type of stuff. And then catering to travellers, the hotel specifically caters to the needs of interstellar travellers, understanding their unique challenges and requirements. Okay, so that is the Dragon Corporation, and that is kind of their ethos, their operating model, and also some of the probably more idiosyncratic things behind them. The fact that they might have a clone staff element in them, which is pretty creepy. The fact that they offer this very consistent service, and they are very discreet, and the customer is always right unless he commits a violation. Okay, and to see this in actual action, I'll show you what I've done on the. I've done a write-up of what I think the Dragon Hotel Tarot would be like, and I know this is probably like, Brian tells you a story, but yeah, I'm not going to maybe have as effectively text-heavy sessions again. This is really just to get across the two concepts: the Starport and the fact that it's important, and the design of it, and then the Dragon Hotel, where the characters are going to be based a lot of time. And I just wanted maybe just to get a feel for what it's like. And I thought if I did that and described it, you might have in your mind, when I come to actually have the characters sitting in the lobby with a little. I'm going to use my little things. You might be able to visualize what that's all about, and get a feel for things. So. The Dragon Hotel Tarot. The building stands as a distinct structure within the Imperial Starport, while adhering to the Dragon Corporation's ethos of always different, always the same. It subtly incorporates the retro tech aesthetic and the somewhat reserved atmosphere of Tarot. So, like any Dragon Hotel, it will integrate features of the local environment. On the exterior is built from durable, locally sourced materials, incorporating the purplish hue of Tarot's rock in its facade, which is identical to what I said about the Starport. The lines are clean and solid, suggesting security and permanence, but with an underlying elegance. So that's all part of the ethos that's trying to reflect like the culture. The signage is discreet but clearly visible, featuring the stylized dragon emblem of the corporation. It's got this dragon on it. It's not quite like this, but it's got something quite similar. A clearly visible the stylized dragon emblem of the corporation alongside the planet's name in a classic font. The subtle lighting illuminates the entrance, creating a welcoming yet private ambience. So that's all very nice and old world-ish. The interior. The lobby exudes a sense of quiet quality and understated luxury. Isn't that nice? Very elegant. The color palette incorporates muted earth tones with subtle accents of purple or a metallic sheen, reflecting Taro's environment and technological leanings. It's comfortable, well-spaced seating arrangements emphasize individual privacy. The local artwork, usually abstract pieces crafted from the polished crystals or depicting the planet's unique flora, adorn the walls without being ostentatious. So it's all very, very, very it's very quality and discreet and tasteful. I think tasteful is probably the word. You can go into some hotels and it's just a bit too ostentatious. It's a bit too out there. This is very tasteful. It's very really quite refined. The air is clean and subtly climate controlled, a welcome respite from Taro's atmosphere. Yes, you would know about it if you took your mask off. The staff. Now, this is where it could get a bit interesting, because the staff, if the rumours of cloning are true, are remarkably consistent in their professional demeanour. So we don't know if that's just a rumour, or is it? They're impeccably polite, efficient, and discreet, anticipating guests' needs without being intrusive. Their attire is a uniform style consistent across the Imperium, consisting of dark, well-tailored suits with a subtle dragon insignia in dark green coloured fabric. They are knowledgeable about both Imperial standard procedures and local customs, offering a seamless experience for the travellers. Their expressions are generally neutral and professional, portraying little personal emotion. That sounds like a perfect brochure for the hotel. So that's the staff. Very nice. It's maybe a bit creepy and uniform. They all kind of look the same. Maybe they're not called the same thing. They've got different names, but maybe the names are the same across the hotels for all the different functions. Accommodation, facilities, and services. Now, we have guest rooms. So we have a range of room suites available, from comfortable standard quarters to more spacious executive suites. All emphasize privacy and security with soundproofing and secure access systems. The decor blends functional comfort with a touch of local style, featuring durable, retro-inspired furniture and subtle artistic touches. The amenities. Each room includes climate control, secure data ports, standard Imperial entertainment systems with a slightly older interface. Now, I wanted to just do all this kind of stuff because it sounds, when you do read sometimes the hotel brochures, they've got all these stuff listed. So I thought I'd just pile it all in to try and make it sound a bit more kind of almost like you're reading the brochure for the Dragon Hotel Taro, and well-appointed private sanitation units. Higher-end suites offer enhanced amenities like personal assistance, either human or robotic, so you could get your own robot, maybe even a human to do that, and private dining areas and enhanced security features. And with dining itself, we might be in either of these establishments. We've got the Dragon Hearth restaurant, which is the hotel's primary dining establishment, offers a menu that balances standard Imperial cuisine with carefully prepared local dishes, utilizing fresh ingredients, some imported, some locally sourced. I'm definitely sounding like a brochure now. The atmosphere is refined but not overly formal, catering to both business travelers and those seeking a quiet meal. Private dining rooms are available for discreet meetings. And then we have another area which is the bar. It's called the Wyvern's Tail Bar, trying to keep this theme going. You can see it. It's got a bit of Dungeons and Dragons coming in. A more relaxed setting where guests can unwind. The bar stocks a wide range of interstellar beverages and some local concoctions, and we can have maybe a bit of fun with all the different type of interstellar beverages, the names that we can come up, the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster and that sort of stuff. The atmosphere is subdued, encouraging quiet conversation and discretion. Information brokers and those seeking clandestine meetings might frequent this area. Ooh, yeah. So this is where the Lyra, she likes she likes to be in here doing her Secret Service stuff, Mata Hari type thing. Business and communication, secure data ports and communication hubs. This is like almost like straight out of a brochure. High bandwidth encrypted data ports, standard in all rooms. Secure communication booths available for private conversations. A meeting and conference rooms, selection of well-equipped meeting rooms are available, ranging in size. So I'm almost there, don't worry. In size, offering various technological amenities, again with a retro interface. Security, discreet but comprehensive. Security is paramount. While overt displays of force are minimal, the hotel employs advanced surveillance systems, trained security personnel, both visible and discreet, and strict access protocols. The rules of engagement, that's got that inverted commas, are subtly enforced and violations carry severe consequences, which we've alluded to already. We don't want to go there. Safe deposit facilities, secure vaults are available for guests to store valuables, so that's quite important for all our stuff. Other services, we have a concierge who has knowledgeable staff, can assist with travel arrangements. And I thought we'd have a concierge, a bit modelled like the John Wick thing. I'd have a person that we can deal with, a named individual. Laundry and valet services, we've got the medical assistants, a small well-equipped medical bay with qualified personnel is available for emergencies, so that might be very useful. Transportation arrangements, the hotel can arrange transport across Taro. That could be very useful as well. And just to sum it up, the atmosphere. The overall atmosphere of the Dragon Hotel Taro is one of quiet efficiency, security, and discreet service. It's a neutral ground where travellers from across the Imperium and even beyond can find a reliable and safe haven, while subtly experiencing the unique character of Taro. The staff's unwavering professionalism and the hotel's adherence to the corporation standards create a sense of familiarity and trust for seasoned interstellar travellers. So doesn't that sound nice? So a lovely place to stay. It's very, very discreet, subtle, pleasant, ambient conditions for the travellers. Who wouldn't want to stay? And Taro is this quite an exotic place to come to, even though it would be classified maybe as from your core world Imperium person as a bit of a backwater and backward. It's still a very enchanting, mystical, fantasy-like world. So I think the characters are going to be up for a bit of a treat in the stay. The only other things I need to do in this episode is we had one last item. And again, with the Dragon Hotel, what I'll do is I'll probably do a little summary of that and a little write-up and have a kind of almost like a plan of what the hotel looks like. When we were doing the subsector mapping checklist, we had our world generation checklist, and at the end of it, we said subsector name the subsector and the neighbouring adjacent regions of space. Once we've done that, the campaign has now officially started. Congratulations on reaching this stage. Would you like to know more? I did the Starship Troopers thing. So I've only come up with two names. I've got Viridian Reaches. I had the Viridian Reaches, and I had the Shadow Nebula. That was from way back. Now I like Marches in it, but I know Marches has been taken, and I got the Northern Marches in my AD&D one. And I thought surely you can come up with something different. And then there's things like Veil, and there's Reach. Well, we've got Reaches. What else? Expanse, Rift, and then you've got things like Rimward, Outer, the Outer Worlds. Is that something? Or the Outer Reaches, the Outer Marches, the rim reach. It's that kind of thing. I haven't got something that you could almost like just think, oh yeah, that just sums everything up. Maybe I should hold that off. Um, or if anybody's can suggest a really fantastic, fantastic name, I'll take it. As I say, I'm struggling a wee bit for that. So I think that was about the last thing. From going forward, I've told you a few of the plans for the Starport and the Dragon Hotel. Um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the character, come back to the recycle back to the characters again, and we're going to do what their starting options, their situation, why they've come together. I'm going to do a kind of little like a choice of options as being the likely one. Roll a dice and see which one is the most likely for them. Um, and we'll get the adventuring started. And yeah, we're off. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry if that's a bit text heavy, that one. It won't be going forward, but I thought I'd better set the atmosphere. And at least you in your head, if you ever have to refer to what the Dragon Hotel is or what the Starport's like, you just come back to this episode. Go to uh, 20 minutes or something and find where I talk about that, and you'll get the lowdown. Okay, well that was great. I enjoyed that. Enjoyed talking to you about it. Look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, thanks.